not. Now we are. And we're live from downtown Mill Bay.
Is class number 55 or 50?
I thought 55, but let me double check so I can close and lock the door and walk for those who aren't here on time. You have 3.5 more minutes. What? You guys suspended? Oh.
There's like
The chair needs to be suspended.
this guy has the 2 infinity
Huh?
It's not that hard
I
to
mean, there are.
Like,
But
where
why
you're
is it
like,
you could theoretically get a chair.
like that one.
You just got to suspend it.
Oh, we get like
It'd be a big swing.
what if for one class it's for our business? We got bungee cords on our exterior.
I wrote this down.
Like first class, oh, first one way the other.
Actually, there's a physics experiment you can do with those chairs because they swivel. Put your legs out. You need room, so we won't do it in here. We might actually do this when we have physics. And then when you pull your legs, you accelerate. Yeah, because when you pull in the mass, it has to go faster to conserve the energy.
You've seen the one where the teacher gets like the bowling ball?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so
You should do that, but you should hit yourself.
Oh, well, yeah, they push it. That doesn't work. That just kills the teacher.
Yeah, but how do you do it then?
You let it go.
Wait, can we bring in like a little
Go for your face.
blower and do like
Yeah.
Okay, no one's gonna tell us anything. That's fine. Oh, passion down.
Oh, passion down. Okay,
That's a passion down. I thought you were talking about strategy. That's
passion.
called the battle of passion down.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong.
Actually, I spell it like passion. You know, like PASH.
Oh, yeah,
That's double passion.
Pencils, your worksheets.
Fine.
I'll do that.
Assassination. Oh my god, spelled it.
No, set it on there with it. Oh, you're stuck.
That's okay. Yeah.
oh, it's back to you.
You said it.
You know, it's funny I said
It's what gives Coral their Yeah, a lot of words, you can just say it, and then, like, if you're confused with a word, just say it.
But I spelled on the front.
Okay, well,
None of this spells together.
actually,
Oh, she's blocked E.
like, say it out loud, and then go like, okay, that's
She's another one who has to
some
do that
words
quiz.
don't do that, but I mean, like, I'm assuming that your teacher is gonna be like, that's no passion. Instant F, failed. No, but like if you spell, like if they can tell that you know what you're talking about, unless you get graded on like actually knowing how to spell. If you get graded on like your knowledge of it, they're not going to see you partial. What is that?
I'm just hanging out there. I'm just looking for your local churches.
Wait, Mr. Neufeld,
Yo.
could I maybe go at 12:40 because I also have to make myself. Okay.
You've been good student. No, you can't. You're not right. Yeah, you can have both of those.
But it's like
Ahem. If you can get out of your notes, please.
That's so bad. For no reason.
Let's go.
Extensive note taking.
Gentlemen, notes up. How's it going?
Oral teaching.
I'm not
Looking at recessive shapes.
Where?
It's actually biology.
Don't do it.
Wait, can you crack these photos?
That's
No, we talked about
so the
what are you doing? Are you gonna like talk about it?
I just like
Uh,
She just like the words, like, oh yeah, she didn't just like, he even gave us a project house here, but
It's like you sit.
Gentlemen,
oh yeah,
your notes should be out,
It's like
ready to go.
and you go down it.
wait,
I'm
Julius,
just setting up one quiz.
like you could talk to like the sub.
Wait, we have a quiz. Today.
Yes, you have a quiz.
Like today.
Right now.
Right now.
Wait, actually?
We just done the social test camp.
Do we?
Wait, bro,
He's ready for it. He's ready. You're not ready for it? You always said you're ready for it.
DNA. What's it called?
oh,
No, it's not.
the protein.
I'm sure you never told us how
It wasn't on classroom either.
I don't mind the old quiz. I swear I never heard that.
Wait, Julia, wanna come sit here?
Yeah, your worksheets and everything. Yeah. Every day's game day. Ooh, nice.
No, we were doing. Oh, we went to a quiz at the end.
It's never on Tuesdays.
Okay, notes are out.
You were scaring us.
Last time we were on this, and we were doing how gametes, a lot of definitions. We're going to get more into Punnett squares in a moment. We're going to have to do a few more definitions, then we'll start getting into it. The last law we did that were put based on Mendel's experiments was the law of segregation, or the principle of segregation, in which you separate out all the genes. The second law, which I think the bell went, so we didn't quite have time to finish off that page, was, and I think, do you already have writing on this?
Yeah.
My apologies, add some words. I'll do the whole thing. Sometimes when students ask me to text recognize and I go back in and I delete it, I don't see where already the stuff is in there, so you benefited. Genes separate independently of other genes.
Does that say of other genes?
Yep. The allele, a gamete, not gamete, that's a different thing, receives does not influence other genes. So let's say, I don't know, we'll use our genes for tall and short. So you have a parent who's tall, has the genes for tallness, the gene for shortness, and let's pick another trait. We'll say whether or not, well, not the parent, so we're pea plants. So what was dominant, yellow or green?
Green.
Green. Yellow for the pea, but recessive for the pod. Interesting. So we'll go with, for the pea. So let's say it's yellow. It's like that. What this law is saying is that which one of these the little spermie gets or the little egg gets does not influence which one of these it gets. Now, it was easy before. We just had one trait. We would say, oh, one egg has the capital, one has the lowercase. But once we get into like all of the genes, we have this combination. So you could get, might be easier if I color code them.
Wow.
Do we have to?
I'm going to say yes. Just because. So, I'll start off with the obvious one. First one there. What's a potential partner?
T? Lowercase?
No, cannot.
Y.
Y. Which Y? Green Y or blue Y?
Green.
Green, uppercase Y. So we get that. So that is one little tiny spermier egg. Now you have an entirely other possibility. T could also go with
Y.
Small y.
small y or blue y. What are the odds of those two things happening? 50-50. And what this is saying is that T, this gene, doesn't have a particular affinity for either one of these. They are independent events. And so it is literally 50-50. Just because you have a certain trait doesn't automatically mean that another trait will necessarily come along with it. They are independently assorted.
So this applies to like all species, not
All
just
species, not just humans, not just pea plants.
Is that why we have genetic diversity?
Yeah. And this would, over time, increase genetic diversity. If you have a gene, it's going to spread out in the population because the odds of you getting is the same as getting anything else. And it's also when you get, if you look at something like, in which we've been breeding the genetic diversity out of, for example, dogs, you get something called hybrid vigor because they'll just, it's not like the genes go, oh, I want to be a purebred and only pick the right type. They're just going to independently assort and you're going to get a variety in the genetic diversity in that particular mutt is going to go up. They're often healthier as a result because they're, well, depending on the breed, their nose isn't bred all the way back until their eyes fall out. So, the law of independent assortment means that you have a 50-50 chance. This didn't determine which one you got. And then, of course, we can do the same thing with the lowercase t, because you could have lowercase t with green y and lowercase t with blue. Then lastly, I desperately wanted to finish the last page, and we didn't quite get to it. But we're just going to define a few more terms. Good? Anybody still writing? Nobody said stop. Definitions. We've used the term dominant a lot. When one allele masks, so you don't see the other trait because if you have the other allele, it just disappears. And so completely masking. Pea plant's tallness masked shortness. It could have the gene for shortness, but you couldn't tell just by looking at the plant. So, such as the tallness. And we give it an uppercase letter. And I should probably quickly do a tenth. Who is missing? Is Darren? Yeah, not here. Jojo? Not here.
He's sick.
Anders
He went.
just went. He had a fever yesterday, so that makes sense. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We should be good. So Darren, Jojo, and Anders. See. Okay, so the other one we need to define, we did dominant. I'm going to ask somebody, what is the other type of trait? We have dominant and, Esther?
Recessive.
Recessive. When one allele, we wouldn't say masked, what would we say? Mick?
I don't know.
Think about when we had tallness before, it masked the other trait, shortness. What would we say is happening to the trait of short in that particular case? How would you word it?
Getting
I didn't say Julian.
Probably bigger,
Bigger?
larger.
This allele isn't getting larger. It's not. We're not seeing more of it. We're seeing less of it. What do you call it if you've been masked? Yeah. Pardon?
Covered.
Covered up would be work. Covered by the expression of another allele. You could say hidden. You could say eclipsed, which was a favorite word last year. In some way, it is being completely obliterated. We can't see it at all. But there, such as the, and that particular example, I've already said, was shortness. And it's often given a, Liam, what kind of letter? Small, well, better,
Or lowercase.
lowercase. And the reason I used to say small and big, meaning upper and lowercase, and then I quickly learned because there's people that do this. Or like, that's a big letter, that's a small letter. And then that makes it really confusing. So yeah, upper and lowercase. Question? No. Yes?
Is XR the shortness tallness gene?
So this is example XR. This what is this? What does this mean when we're doing genetics?
Boy.
Not necessarily.
Like the sex gene?
Yeah, it's a sex gene. It's a sex chromosome. And some traits are carried only on the X, and they can be dominant and recessive. And the Y doesn't have them at all. So we'll sometimes designate them because that's different enough that we can't just go like, oh, RR, because sometimes it's something like X, R, Y, and there is no other R, like it's just not there. So we have to clarify, we're talking about a sex-linked trait. So sometimes we use capital and lowercase with the chromosome designation. Good question. Looking on the next page. If you have a widow's peak, is that dominant or recessive? Dominant. I don't know. Do I? What I do know is I should shave my head. My hair's getting way too long. By the time you see me next day. Straight hairline is a recessive trait. That means if you inherit one of each allele from your parents, what will you have? I was going to call someone up, but I'll go with that. You will have a widow's peak. I'll just ask somebody a question next time. And so on the next page, we have a list of, I think last day, did I tell you to look at those?
Yeah.
You can take a look at what traits you have. There are some counties in the States where they've actually put out an educational guideline that the teachers are specifically directed not to do homework that has students examine their own traits and compare them with their parents because of the number of families that have had strife afterwards as they discover whether or not they're related. So they can be for really little things. Do you have a dimple? Do you not have a dimple? Are you a roller? Are you a non-roller? I find it odd. Like, who can't roll their tongue? Like, that's like the easiest thing in the world. But on the other hand, there's lots of people who can't raise an eyebrow. And I only can raise one, which is weird. I can't raise the other one. Although apparently you can possibly learn to do that. If you can make your whole hair shift, you can learn the muscles that'll raise your eyebrows. But that is also whether or not you can do that as a genetic trait. I don't think that's on here. Are your fingers bent or straight when you put them together? which finger, as you notice, I have a shorter index finger. That is a recessive trait. These two are not the same length. By the way, there is a geneticist who takes the ratio of those lengths, and he says, and he's been right more often than statistical chance, he can predict who's going to win a race just based on their finger length. As long as they've had the same amount of training, he's like, that's all I need to know. And what he has discovered is that ratio, not which one's longer, but by how much it is longer. That part isn't genetic. That part is controlled by how much testosterone were you exposed to in the womb. And that will determine how your muscles grow when you're young, which will determine your athletic ability when you're older. So provided the same amount of training, he believes he could predict a race often enough that basically bookies won't let him bet, because he will be right more often than chance, and he would make a lot of money there and there.
Wait, so even if you're recessive,
Yep.
it's the difference of.
It's the difference in heights, yeah. So exactly how much are you taller or shorter? Yeah.
Like, how can we tell which trait is dominant and which trait is not?
Oh, if you study enough people, because you can tell, like the same way Mendel did, is that do you see true reading traits?
Yeah.
And when two people that look like they have that come together, which one's masked? You can look at a family tree and then determine which one's recessive by how it's inherited. So
it is
by looking at a
worldwide?
lot of family trees, we have figured this out. Yeah.
So that's worldwide, right? Not
Yeah, worldwide. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I said, there's also, because I should, now that I think about it, we often talk about nature and nurture. Genetics is nature. This is determined. You don't have much of a choice. But there is nature. How much did your environment shape it? Whether you're right and left-handed, genetically controlled. However, if your arm was chopped off, environmental. Or if you have really mean teachers. My father is left-handed. He writes with his right hand. He plays hockey with his left. He throws fastball with his left. And he plays basketball with his right. Because when he was in school, the teacher tied his left hand to his chair. If he tried to use it, he was beaten with a stick in front of class. Because left-handed people, what is the Latin word for left? Do you
Isn't
know?
it like devil or
Sinister. The word sinister comes from the Latin for left, because of course left-handed people are evil. That's the European background thinking.
If it's just a trait,
So, you can learn to use other hands if needed.
is this a trait? Look at this.
No, that's just a weird muscly thing as far as I know.
So funny.
Yeah.
I'm saying that.
How do you cross your arms?
How does eye color work?
Eye color is often corresponding to Mendelian genetics, but we get into incomplete dominance, which we're going to do after, because blue and green are both recessive. One of the reasons why some traits turn out to be dominant are something as simply as they're both being expressed, you just can't see it. Brown is such a dark color, it doesn't matter if you're expressing any blue, you just see the brown. So it's completely masked. If you have, there's a variety of genetic disorders. So if you get a bad copy of a gene, you can't process certain chemicals. And now you have a disorder. If you get too many of those chemicals, it'll build up in your liver and kidneys. It will be bad. However, if you have one bad copy and one good copy, it doesn't matter. Even if you're making bad enzymes, you're also making good enzymes. And so you function perfectly fine. And so it's not that it's not there, it's just that you never notice it. So sometimes dominant recessive is just what you can observe.
So my parents both have both parents green, why my dad's green basically brown.
Yeah.
That's just
Earlier on, I mentioned eye color. Eye color is one of those. There are other factors, and it is not simple Mendelian. And the reason I mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to redo it now, is because it has been used in genetics classes so often as an example that people will assume eye color is, and it isn't always. There are other gene factors involved, and so eye color, you'll notice, isn't on this chart. Because it's not a good one to use for that type of thing. It was there, and then there, and then there. Oh, you're just scratching.
Is that dominant and recessive
What traits a particular group has may be due to the genetics of that particular population. There's a number of populations around the world, for example, that their blue eyes just don't exist because it was a mutation in one particular group that spread. The reason that Irish and red hair goes together is because that mutation apparently happened in Ireland and spread out from there. And so some mutations may have happened in a group because prevalent in that group. There's a lot of selection in like what traits are popular in terms of selecting mates in a group. But how you're going to inherit them don't matter. So if you have people from two different groups, your child isn't necessarily going to be more one or the other. They select independently. Now that being said, if you come from a mixed family, the other class asked this, and I was like, I've never heard of this before. One of the people in the class said, I come from a mixed family, and as all my siblings are being born, we're getting less Asian over time. So like it's like the printer's running out of ink or something. Like the last one looks the most white, and the first one was the dark. And I was like, I've never heard of that. And the like 5 other people in class were like, no, this is true. It happened in my family. I know a couple in Vancouver that ran a restaurant called Salt and Pepper because one was white, one was black. And their kids actually did the opposite. It was like the first child was like the purest white-looking kid you've ever seen in your entire life. Like, you know, probably has no sense of rhythm whatsoever. Just falls down when he tries to walk, like just terrible. And like pure white. And then the fourth child is the blackest kid you've ever seen in your entire life. And so like it happened opposite. But there are enough funny things that can happen in genetics that there could be a trend that way, and I'm really curious. Does anybody else notice that, or was that just my last weird class?
I have a question.
Yeah?
So, is recessive like rarer?
Rare.
Is it like,
It's actually,
Super
if
rare.
it depends. Is it rarer? Yes, because it gets masked. Do lots of people have recessive traits? Especially if the recessive trait can be, say, bad for you? Yeah, because it can hide. It's not going to select out by evolution right away.
so is it like a 75-25 split?
We will do more
Because Julian,
Punnett squares in the future. Yes.
Back in my
Yeah, but that-
town, there were 2 families in there that had the same
Trailing trend. One of them is going to email me. I'm going to look it up because I find that weird. Yes.
So, perchance,
Perchance.
if
You can't just start a sentence with perchance. Yes, go.
So, like, if you're gonna like give like the class like super random to do, and like all of us like the same thing, one person did it like in a different way, would that be dominant or recessive?
Sorry. What?
Like, make it,
Oh, you're looking at a population.
yeah.
A class doesn't have enough to make that determination. It could be popular. Like you could pull a class, and they could all have a single trait except for one. And that could just be because it happens to be like 3/4 of your class comes from a particular ethnic group, and that's just the dominant trait. Like as in most prevalent. But if you're all like if you're a truly random mix, you need like 1,000 people. The one you see the most often should be the dominant trait. Yes.
Is
Yes.
it possible for like a white couple to have a black baby?
Yes.
I got this everyone.
Because it doesn't correspond to simple Mendelian genetics.
what do we get at, like,
You
so we get
are
a
the
black,
first.
and a white,
Oh, okay.
black and a white mother, like a black and white
Dude,
mother.
that's like so funny.
2 white babies, no, black and white, it's 2 white babies, right?
They'll be light skinned.
Okay,
No, it doesn't matter.
next one.
Because again,
Joseph Brown.
let's say,
Light skinned bumble.
let's say this guy's what?
Yeah, black, white.
And this guy's
Or white.
W.
John, I'm going to ask you to separate for this.
He's explaining the.
We're gonna do some Punnett squares in a moment,
I'm gonna do a Punnett square real quick.
but let's put that away for now. Julian, on the board. Okay. And starting off, I like this diagram because it summarizes everything that happened there. We have our pea plants, theoretically, and we have the recessive, in this case, maybe a yellow pod. F1 generation completely masked, disappearing if these are both true reading. Pops out, parents don't see it, and then it pops out in the next generation, so grandpa and grandchild have something in common. I also like that they're talking and completely bypass the fact that it was, once again, so often in genetics, instant incest. because we took the children and bred them together, and they look so happy. No one is acknowledging that. Speaking of incest, the royal family. Now, if I was to,
Wait, what's the white and
one second.
yellow?
I am going to do one thing to make this a little bit more difficult.
Why did it say how they died?
No, I haven't been yet. That's a British one.
Cause like it's kind of Jane like that.
Led to
Henry
death
died.
after accidents? That's so mean.
I thought, what's his name?
There we go.
Charles the
We
something.
all have it on our
He
notes.
was, no.
Okay, Julian, you can't just start talking loudly. If we have two parents, so we know that there's two parents. I've hidden it up so you can't see the answer right away.
We have
Um,
on our sheets.
There was no, don't look at that. Look at the board. That's why I covered it up. Don't look at your sheets. Look at the board.
Okay.
If it is orange, they have a condition known as hemophilia, in which case you bleed after a cut and you keep bleeding because you can't produce enough clotting factors to stop the bleed. It can be quite a deleterious condition because you can't, if you have internal bleeding, you wouldn't even know and it would never stop. And so it popped up in the royal family clearly due to a mutation. Because it hadn't been present before, and then very quickly spread around because we can see that we're having children who then have children, and family lines, incest, are joining up. So, the first person to demonstrate this trait was Leopold. Just looking at the diagram as I've written it on the board, is Leopold the first mutation, or did it come from Leopold's parents? And how would you know with the family tree? Yes?
I think it's like grandparents.
It's what?
Grandparents.
Gran-
Like the generative.
Well, parents. We're not.
Oh, okay. Then it's not from
It's not from the parents?
like the recessive one. It's not the.
Why not?
Cause like his other siblings having the more like dominant one.
Yeah, the other siblings are fine. So there's sibling here is fine, sibling here is fine. We now know, and if you're looking at it, carrier. But this is the first generation. How do we know it can't be from there? Yeah.
Because other family trees end up with it as well.
Yeah. It's also here. So if you're just observing who had it, because when you're putting together a family tree, you don't know who a carrier is. So you just see, oh, well, this person had it and that person had it, and they don't share anybody. So that means it had to have happened before that. And so we guess that Queen Victoria or before, there was a mutation. Queen Victoria either inherited as a mutation before, it wasn't present because it wasn't coming out in the family tree before. But now we can start tracing. And if Frederick had it, then Alice must have been a carrier. So they're working backwards through the family tree to figure it out. It's also a sex-linked trait, which is a more complicated type of Punnett square, and we're going to do that a little later on. Yes? Oh, it's a sex-linked trait like colorblindness. So, to get it as a female, you have to have both traits. So this goes back, if you are genetically female, then that would be regular. The dominant trait is that you don't have hemophilia, you have normal clotting factor. This, oops, erased too much, would be a carrier. And this would be a female with hemophilia. Notice, do you see any females who have hemophilia in there? Really hard to get. If you're a female, you're much less likely to be colorblind as well for much the same reason. Because if you're a male, genetically, you have an X and a Y. The Y doesn't carry the gene at all. So here are the two possibilities. If you're male, that means you're a regular male, you don't have hemophilia. But if you inherit the hemophilia gene, you just have it. You don't have a backup. So a female can be a carrier and not have it, but the male has no option to be a carrier. They either have it or they don't. And color blindness is exactly the same. And so if you're colorblind, for example, you inherited it from your mom because the Y chromosome does not carry those genes. So you can't inherit it from your dad. So if your dad's colorblind and you're male, you didn't get it from your dad. It only comes from the X chromosome, and you get your X chromosome if you are genetically male from your mom. And so if mom has it, you have a 50-50 chance, if you're male, to get it. There was a hand up, I thought, over here for a second. No. And so the royal family, the reason I show this is very common when we're introducing genetics. Everybody uses, especially in the English-speaking world, the royal family, because number one, we know their family line because everybody's really interested in who's the heir, who's going to be on the throne. And so they're very well traced, even births out of wedlock. We know exactly who the parents were because everybody's paying really close attention to that. And so it makes it really easy to do a genetic study because their lives haven't been private for generations. But we're going to start off with some simple ones. We already know phenotype, genotype, and allele. I'm not going to make you rewrite those down because we did them in the previous notes. But we now have a few new terms, homozygous and heterozygous. And using the root because we've also done homogeneous in chemistry. Jennifer, what does homo mean as a Latin root? Same. So homozygous just means that all the genes are the same.
XX, lowercase.
The alleles are the same. These are also the ones in our pea plants that we call true breeding. Because if you take a homozygous recessive or and breed with a homozygous recessive, you don't have any other genes. It's always going to be the same genes. When Mendel was doing it, he didn't quite know that, and it was that was one of the findings. Heterozygous would then be Lucas. Nope, Lucas is writing a quiz. Hillary. Different. And so you get one of each. We are going to start with Mendelian genetics, and then we're going to break out of it a little bit. When we say the words Mendelian genetics, we tend to mean a Punnett square. That considers only one trait with simple dominant and recessive. And I need to slow down my writing. If I scroll too fast, you're not done writing, slow me down. Tell me to put it back. point when I was reading, flicked my eyes down instead of writing the next definition. Only simple dominant recessive, not only one trait. Mendelian genetics does for all traits. But we only consider simple dominant recessive for Mendelian genetics. Monohybrid crosses are only one trait. You can also do dihybrid crosses, in which you consider two traits and more so, and come out with all sorts of complicated ways that we can put together what is the organism going to be. So for this one, let's say that we had AA. Julian. And AA. Parents, we do the cross. What would these be?
F1.
This would be the F1, yeah. That would be the next question. What are those? Gametes. Those are the sex cells, sperm and egg. Pronounce it either way. Potato, potato. Tomato, tomato. So what I would like you to do is take the F1 children, force them to mate, to make the F2 cross. In that Punnett square, I would like you to give me the phenotypic ratio, like we did last day. Pardon?
Isn't it 3 to 1?
I'm not going to tell you right now. I want you to do it.
Are we gonna assume that for both?
And the genotypic ratio. And in addition to doing it as a ratio, 3 to 1, 1 to 1, 1 2, or whatever it turns out to be, I also want you to give it as a percent. Percentages. Percentages. So, let's do the F2 cross. Put it on up. I'm going to come around and take a look at your page.
Big A, small A, big A, small A. No, this is small A. Yeah,
It's just how it's
like
spelled.
we're assuming there's another one.
A lot of words like
Oh,
that,
what-
or
okay,
just
forgot.
like
Yeah.
spell it.
Oh, we're doing lowercase. So. Oh my bad. So it would be.
So it would be big A, small A, big A, small A.
Oh,
I do the Punnett square first. I want to make sure, I want to see your Punnett square so I can make sure. Is that A and, oh, that's A.
Phenotypics. G, I don't know.
Upside down, I thought they were.
Is it all the same? What?
how would I do
So in the
this?
same way you go 3 to 1, you would go so many percent, so many percent.
Are we doing this, you know?
What's your new phone?
So
It'd be 75% and 25%.
Aren't they all
Yeah.
just AA?
Wait, what's a genotype?
And if you're doing ratios like phenotype, you'd also add in what the two phenotypes are. So if it's like 3 to 1, you'd also say yellow to blue.
Yes, it's 25%.
Excellent. Now there's the ratios.
The phenotypics do.
The small A can only appear if there's no.
Is it just this?
Yeah, no, but yes. Yeah, you are doing that, but we already did that here. We got this. You're taking those as the parents and then splitting them up.
Ones for big
We're
A.
taking one.
You're taking, this is the F1, right?
Yes.
So now those become the parents. So this becomes the F2. You split those up. What would you get in here and here?
It would just be A.
Yeah, but capital or lower, uppercase or lower.
Capital A and then just A.
Just A is upper or lowercase?
Lower.
Lower, yeah. You need to do that.
So it would just be the same thing in every box.
Nope.
How do you get the genotype?
You separate. So what's in this box?
What's the phenotypic ratio?
A.
Wait,
Capital or lowercase?
Lower.
Nope.
Actually, oh, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Capital. Because we always put we tend to put the capitals first, and then this one will be
phenotypics physically.
lowercase. And then you do the same there, and then you bring it through, and you'll get something different.
Capital A will appear.
Okay?
Yes, I have some mutation.
If we get the capital first, let's do the zero.
Yeah, look at, you have.
Show me what you mean.
I
Right
don't.
here.
If it's like,
Same as Y.
if it's always capital first.
I used to have that.
No, because you're combining here. So this would be capital, capital. That'd be capital, so you're going through. If I could get someone up here to fill in the Punnett square. come on up while I'm taking around looking at people. Mirhat, Punnett Square for you, man.
Wait, and what do I use for the ratio for this?
It's the genes, not the trait. So the trait is like yellow or blue. Genes are like uppercase A, lowercase
Oh, so this would actually
I felt
be
like
genotype.
A.
This ratio of just 3 dominance versus 1 recessive.
No, that would be
I'm
traits.
holding up my hands.
Because that's different from that. Genotypical. That's uppercase, uppercase. That's uppercase, lowercase. So these are different. Genotypical.
Oh, is it like the thing where it's like 1, 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
You want me to take a gander before you write it on the board before all of you hear it?
right? So that's the 2 here.
Fantastic.
One on the double.
Grab a pen.
And then one on the
Right there. There. So the ratios are like 1, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1.
So how do you double the 8 seconds?
Which was 50?
See, look,
Wait, so which one's phenotypic?
No, no. You're looking at these.
Oliver, is this? This is phenotypic.
3 to 1. For the traits, yellow and blue. Now for the genotypes, it's going to be a little bit like that is different from those genotypes. So the phenotypic ratio of the genotype.
I mean,
So one's the traits, yellow and blue. The one's for the genotypes.
How do you know we're focusing on?
I'm not going to tell you for sure. I'm going to get someone to do it.
Oh wait, it works.
Yes, you're on the right
and
track.
then some people right there is.
Yeah. Because if it's phenotypic.
Oh, what was wrong with that?
Right,
Oh,
so
I kind of wrote it weird.
Oh, okay.
no, but phenotypic is how it's gonna look when it
Sure.
comes out.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
This wasn't really.
Oh, you could ask questions for me. Oh, nice.
It's how like
Okay, before we do the ratios, whoops. Let's pick a highlighter. There we go. And JK. Riley, what's your name? There we go. Because I want percents as well as ratios. First go through to get the traits. Riley, what color are these ones?
yellow.
Those are yellow. Ah, that's the wrong one. So it's yellow. What color are these ones? Riley? Yellow. Because yellow is dominant. What color are these ones? Yellow. What color are these ones? Those are blue.
I have to go.
Excellent. Now you have to go. See? Answer the question before you went. Well done. So,
wait, you know one?
for the phenotypic ratio, we're only looking at traits. So we're not looking at the genetics. So what is the phenotypic ratio? Vienna. 3 to 1. What to what? 3 of what? No, that's genotype. 3 to 1. 3 what though? A trait is what it looks like. So what do these look like? Yellow. So it's yellow to blue. So you can write 3 yellow to 1 blue, or you can write 3 to 1 yellow blue, which is fine. But you don't put in genes. If you put in genes for this, you've done that incorrectly. That is the genes are the genotypic ratio. I'll give you a question in just 1 second. I'm going to ask one more to Julian. Apparently, Julian, walking in the room, not knowing what's going on. If I said 3 to 1, how would you express that as a percent?
75%, it would be yellow.
75% to 25%. Well done. What is each box worth? 25%. And you may be thinking, Mr. Neufeld, that's obvious why you're making that a point. And the point is when we do dihybrid crosses, it will not be quite so easy. And knowing the percent of the boxes can make the math a lot easier. So. And, okay, genotypic ratio, Julian GG. For this one, we are considering the genotype, so not the colors. Do you have the ratio? Okay. What are the three different types that we can have?
A, capital A, capital A,
Yep.
capital A, lowercase a,
Yep.
and lowercase a, lowercase a.
Yeah. And you can get the ratio from that fairly quickly. How many of these do we have out of 4? 1. How many of that do we have out of 4?
2.
There. And how many of lowercase? 1. So that's your genotypic ratio.
Okay.
As a percent, wanted to ask Riley again. Caden, what are those as a percent? 25%. 50%. 25%. That says 250. Ignore that. Good. Excellent. We are going. Oh, sorry. Does anybody still need that? Because I'm gonna have you do it again. But we're gonna do it with a particular type. What I would like you to do is please draw. Oops. No. Yeah, that's from an email. That is not for you.
Van Vliet. He's always sick.
Delete. There we go. So I'm going to use the L for a term. Please draw a long-haired cat and a short-haired cat. Which one's recessive?
The short hair one.
Short hair. So this is a long-haired kitten. Aww. And if you're like, Mr. Newville, I don't want to draw and you use pictures, that's cheating. I drew for years. And if I want to go old school, I could still draw it. I would just draw it like this. This is how I do it. There's my cat. It's got a head and it's got legs. And this is long-haired. And then I have another cat, and it's got a head, and it's got some legs, and it's short-haired. I don't care how you draw it, and some of you have a ton of talent, because I've walked around and seen your drawings and go, oh my God, you can draw. So draw as well as you can, but clearly you do not have to draw well.
Are we showing a long hair?
So long-haired with a short-haired kitty cats. Okay. This is the parent cross.
My sister used to draw people like this. Like there's no lives.
And we get a little kitty cat.
Wait, so do we do it like,
Okay, let's make these cats.
like,
And we are going to make those cats.
are we gonna watch some cats breed?
We're not going to watch that. That seems a little disturbing.
God dang it.
That's why I came here.
Mick,
Disappointed.
what kind of trait will this little kitten have? Will it be long-haired or short-haired?
Long
Long-haired.
I will not be drawn.
So what I would like you to do is that this is the F1 offspring. I would like you to take those little cute little kittens and force them to mate.
I don't.
And give me the F2 cross. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Delete. Oh. Delete. Oh, there they are. Mate those parents.
There we go. Mate.
Label these two sonnets. And below it, give me the phenotypic and genotypic ratios in percents.
What? Isn't it the same as last one?
It is.
I am giving you, an easy example to see that now that you've done it once, you can do it again. Yeah, it might be the same. If you're going like, why is Mr. Neufeld giving us such easy examples? It's because sometimes students look at this and they go, oh my God, there's fractions, and then their brain like breaks a little and they go, they're really super easy fractions. You'll be able to do it. I'm doing the same example twice so you can see that it's going to be common sense. You have a grid, you can count. It will be no problem whatsoever. And I'm going to ask people to come up and fill it in a moment. View, zoom, entire page.
Like the big swimmer.
Yeah.
And someone I heard said, where's our 5-minute break? Just so you're aware, what block is this?
See.
Last block.
Last block. What do you get at the end of this block?
Lunch.
Early lunch. So
Early.
that's where your break is.
That's what I like to hear, dude.
Early like
All the learning. You're welcome. You're welcome. When I first came here as a teacher, to walk to class, I had to walk uphill both ways. And juniors didn't get early lunch, except on rare occasions. Or Mr. Collis was their teacher.
I love Mr. Collins.
It's going to be, yes. But these are traits. It's actually really cool how you
I was
traits
thinking about
that
doing
shows
TCH's
that.
AP
I don't want to get
complex.
used to you
I do not like
you do
And then
better
I heard about it, bro.
because a cat won't have both.
I
Like
like
this one,
TCH.
it looks like
Collins
they have
is 10
both.
times better.
They're not going to have both. They're going to have whichever's
I
dominant.
like that.
Don't forget, I do need to see a drawing of your cats. Well done.
Yeah.
Don't forget to draw the children.
Youth is not good.
I still time out.
Little tiny children.
4.
Give me a drawing of your cat.
Right, is that your cat?
What are some of these terms?
Oh, pardon? Sure, it can work. Like you've seen how bad my drawings are. I will literally accept anything. You've got nice ratios. Get in the ratios.
Oh, that's so weird.
Maybe an hour. An hour ago. Yeah, good. You're on the right track. Percents as well. Okay. If you could come up and fill in the Punnett Square, please. Liam,
Ooh.
fill the Punnett Square.
Don't show.
What does phenotype mean?
What does phenotype mean? What's the other word?
Phenotype?
What does that mean?
Like what it is? Like
What,
the
like,
letters?
like the letters, the genes. So phenotype must be the. What? Well, we've only done 2 traits. We've only done 2
Oh,
types.
okay.
you know
Yeah.
the unicorn is actually the
Nice.
animal skull.
I thought it was the.
I guess.
Yeah, that's why. Does anybody know why
Unicorn.
the unicorn
I heard
is
talk a lot about
Ellis's
haggis.
symbol?
No.
Their bums?
Okay. What is the unicorn the national animal of?
Scotland.
Scotland. What house is associated with Ellis House?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. What kind of name is that?
Scottish.
Scottish. What kind of kilt do we wear?
Scottish.
Scottish kilt. That it is because it's not Ellis House isn't the unicorn because they're Ellis House.
It's because they're bums.
Technically, it's because Mackenzie House is actually the unicorn. They're all, but somehow Ellis House stole it, and then they became a frog. I'm not sure how that happened,
Alice,
but
Alice is
that's why.
I hate a frog.
Liam, especially you.
I mean, the yellow and green go well with frogs and tractors. Okay. Oh, haha.
Blue pick a well gender reveal too.
I like whoever labeled this. However, I didn't ask you to label it, but those, yes, those are the things that are there. But what are those things called? What are those things?
The genes.
Yes.
The alleles.
These are different alleles. They are alleles. I would accept that on a test. However, when we divide up the alleles, what do they go into? Gametes. So these are the gametes.
Yes.
At?
I don't know.
Which gene is dominant? Dicorn, unicorn. Why does this have 2 horns?
Julian,
Example.
Yeah.
focus. Because I'm going to put you on that page in just a moment, but I just want to finish this one off so that we all have it. What will the phenotypic ratio be? Zach?
Yes.
Phenotypic ratio.
75% long, 25% short.
75% long, 25% short.
Is it okay if we did like 1, 3, 1, 3?
And I asked you for percent. So
Okay.
if you did 3 to 1, that's entirely correct.
Okay.
But I also asked you just add the percent in. What is the genotypic ratio?
1. Oh, sorry.
Hillary? Yep.
Is 1, 2, 25, 50,
25%, 50%, 25%, 1 to 2 to 1. And what is it, 1 to 2 to 1 or 25% of?
It's gonna be LL.
Upper or lowercase?
Wait, no, uppercase L,
Yeah,
then uppercase L, lowercase L.
nice.
lowercase L.
Yeah. And if we were to show this in our little kitty cats, we have long-haired, 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 and one tiny short-haired coming out with a recessive trait.
Is that short?
Pardon?
That's also long hair.
No, it's short-haired. I look, that breed is short-haired. I don't know what to tell you. That's what people wouldn't lie on the internet.
That's true.
Short-haired. There. Now it is. Okay. For the next 7 minutes, and please do it for homework tonight, finish off this page. A homozygous two-horned mare. Are mares male or female?
I don't know.
Or what?
What is a stallion?
Male.
Male. So we have a homozygous two-horned mare, known as a dicorn, is crossed with a homozygous one-horned stallion, which is a unicorn. The F1 generation are all unicorns. What gene is dominant? Genotypes of the parents, gametes from the parents, phenotype of the F1, genotype of the F1. Please stop doing this weird packing up. You are working now. Anybody who's not working will continue to work past 1 o'clock.
I thought you said it was homework.
Yes, continue on for homework.
Oh, if we don't.
You're not leaving right away? And then on the next page, do the Punnett square for the F2, answer the questions for the F2, and at the end, once you get the ratios, I'm not asking you for the percents. I'm saying these horses were very frisky. They had 80 offspring.
Wow.
How many of each type? Dicorns, heterozygous, and so on.
1.5. How can you-
Okay,
Can you
go.
check my answers for me?
Pardon?
Can you check my answers for me?
Nope. If you think you're done, how many of you need help to start? There, go help Pablo.
Pablo.
You didn't put up your hand saying you need help. I will send something to you. Yes.
You said
Oh,
1.5.
where's your quiz?
So, you can tell.
And you two, okay.
The F1.
And there, perfect. Okay.
You know who's
Question, Liam?
Yes.
So
So,
homozygous means it's either
you said 1.5.
Yeah, I'm not answering any questions, but I want you to interpret that and tell me how many. Gentlemen, how many? What? Pull out your notes. You might as well get started on this because you've missed a chunk even though you've seen it.
these two together.
Let's go.
If you're gonna do a
Pardon? Yeah, yeah. But you can also work with him. Start learning.
So that's how you go. The dominant
Yeah, so it's always gonna be calculated.
I understand.
Biology.
Yeah, like, I know.
It's like, it's biology.
And then that's why the F1.
Okay, human biology is a
Genotypes.
separate course.
Oh yeah, human. So biology 10 is genetics a lot and evolution. Biology 11 is like worms and invertebrates and cells and some evolution as well. Biology 12 is human evolution. It's not human organ systems. So human anatomy is bio 12.
Okay, and is that the one where they like,
cut like this.
It depends, like they do a lot of dissections in biology 11 too, like worms and things. Sure. Oh, no.
Phenotype patient.
This is
No, you go out there.
That's for the genotype, that's
Right,
right.
that's for the F1 generation. Oh,
It's also for the parents.
oh, right, F1 is phenotype.
Zach, you said you did this an hour ago? Excellent, come help Julie. Okay, you start, since I took away other Julie.
We're thinking gaming for parents.
Hello.
Anybody else need help?
It's basically all of
No, for F1.
Okay, I think
like,
which genes
F1
know.
is this one.
So unicorn has to be
And then
Actually,
F2 is when it gets hot.
Are they both unicorns?
no, gaming for parents.
Yeah, that description has I don't tell you,
Going to be
So
but if you read that, it does
when you
tell
use
you by the
dominant,
trait.
because all of each generation are
Hold
unicorns.
on.
So it's
Don't put it away, keep going.
So they have to have two recessive genes. And the unicorn has to have two dominant. Does that make sense?
First, let's
Gene is dominant.
So homozygous means they're both the
Yeah.
same.
Liam, I know you need help.
I didn't count
And
that.
so, yeah, we have a homozygous two-horn,
And then the
but we also have a
genotypes,
homozygous
the
one-horn.
norm was
Wait, yeah, but
two
what will we
lowercase u's. I did. I
Oh, you can just make it up.
Okay, hold on.
Like, you look
I'm
make
not
it
gonna,
up.
like, I'm not gonna say it
Why?
but I'll say like it was really hard for me. Like I'll say
Well, keep reading
like,
until the next
like
sentence.
I did it was really hard.
gametes
Like,
form you and you.
Right, so which one are you
That
going?
makes so much sense, but you know, just
there's
or you just
one-
but
Hell no.
but like
No, the number of horns wouldn't matter, it matters when we have.
basically the
So,
dad can only give
remember a piece, it's all
the
flint,
dad can only give
true reading.
uppercase
I'm
U's,
sure I
mom
believe in
can
true
only
reading.
give lowercase.
They were all tall.
Those are. The
Which one was
phenotype, if they're all unicorns,
So,
then it's
so we have a
right?
one
The
horn,
genotype of the F1,
and we have a two
they're
horn.
all U, uppercase U.
All the children or what?
Because you're breeding these two.
One horn, so which one's dominant?
Science squared. That helps sense so far.
So you know by what the children do.
And then F1, F2. Remember how we did P-plans?
Yeah.
It's basically that. It's now the exact same. The hard part was just figuring out the parents. Nate, you got that? Cool.
I don't know. Example. Let the cells go through. What does the cells go through? What? Nice.
Just keep working ahead.
Meiosis. That is the process by which cells divide things from egg cells. That way you go from 46 chromosomes to 20. That's called meiosis. Did you do meiosis last week? Were you here last week? Grade 8? Okay. Where were you doing grade 8? Oh, in BC. So they should.
Check your earlobe.
Yeah.
Your recessive.
How many chromosomes does the cell have? Good. How many chromosomes does the cell have?
It's not a multiple choice.
46. 23 pairs. So when you heal,
Oh, is it not?
it has to double
I
that.
just want to get 75%.
And then you get 46 again. But what, that's called mitosis. Mitosis. Okay. Meiosis is when they duplicate again, and you end up with 23. And that's the sperm in your egg. Because if you have a sperm and you have an egg, you need 23
Not all
each,
heroes wear capes.
so that you make 46. That was a little disturbing when you're not on the ball at what time it goes.
I got some too.
Yeah, no, but when this class ends, when I invite you to come. So everybody but Pablo may now go. Pablo, get your book out and show me you could be ready to go.
Come on, Pablo.
And it was like, yeah, look it up what it means. No, have your desk, I'm sitting down, ready to go. I can't tell you. I went you take your best guess, I'm gonna go over next stage. Pablo, you look ready. You've been working right up until the end. You've been eager to do genetics. So cool. You may now pack up and go.